Welcome to Wise Up on Air. How's everyone doing today? We're so happy to be with you. I'm joined today by Maretty and Thalie Keklikian. Welcome to Wise Up on Air, Hands On Spatial Audio, Episode 3, talking about Wwise Reflect.
Yay!
Yeah! So if you've been following along with us, Episode 1 we covered rooms and portals. This is part of the default functionality in Wwise that allows for sound to propagate throughout these virtual worlds that you're all contributing to. Episode 2 piggybacked on what we did there and added geometric reflections. Pretty exciting. Sound bending around the world.
And all of it free.
Again, part of the default feature set comes as part of Wwise. And today we're going to talk about Wwise Reflect. It's a premium plugin for licensing as part of your game. And we're going to talk about all the cool things that brings to the dynamic playback of sound in a space. And it's great to see everyone here today. Thanks for joining us in the chat room. As always, this is a process that we're engaging in with the community. So please bring your questions to the chat. We're happy to answer those as we move through or finding the right moment to tuck it around the edges. And with that, I just want to say, again, thanks to Mads and Thalie for joining us today. Let's roll.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for organizing everything. We made it to the last episode.
Cool.
Okay, so I see my presentations there. Yeah. Do we start now?
3, 2, 1, go!
Okay. First, in the first episode, we talked about rooms and portals. That was for reverbs. We could choose a room with a different reverb than another room, add a portal in between them, and the sound would propagate from one to the other. The direct sound and the reverb. And then in the next episode, we added geometry. So if we wanted to get some diffraction inside of a room on objects instead of just between rooms and doorways, we could. So we added some geometry on the statue there, on stairs, and in corridors when they turn 90 degrees to get some diffraction. And today we are talking about Reflect. So I'm going to start with a little introduction science. So imagine this is your sound in time. Sound is being, let's say, projected from this emitter here on the wall, and you are here listening to it. The first thing you're going to hear, and the loudest thing, is a direct path. And then you're going to hear a bunch of reflections of the sound in that touches the objects and the walls of that room. And there are two different sections. Well, I mean, we decided, we and science decided to separate them in two sections. One is the early reflections, which is green, and one late reverb. The early reflections is what Reflect will emulate, and late reverb we already saw is the room verb or convolution reverb plugins that you can add on your sound. So why we differentiate them? It's because the early reflections are more separated in time, and then you can hear them with their directions. So it helps you see where like the walls are in your room, if you're near a wall or not. And late reverb is more like when it started to bounce off multiple times, and then you can't really hear where it sounds from. So we use a different plugin for that, where it's not coming from a specific area, and it's just like something that tells you how big the room is in terms of like volume and the timbre if you want it's something different. So like I said, this green part is using Reflect. Well, if you want to simulate this green part, you can use Reflect. And it's informed by the geometry. So the same geometry that we used last time, you can also like tick something to say, yeah, I want to use Reflect on that sound, and it's going to use the geometry already sent to spatial audio. So yeah, if we just finish up with this theory part, the distance in time of these is because some of the time the sound takes to travel, bounce up on something, come back to the listener, and the difference in height here is how much it's absorbed in by like the walls or other objects it's touching before it reaches the listener. Okay, so those two things, we simulate them. Okay, so how does it work under the hood? We use an image source algorithm to do that. So what we do is we decided that the reflective surfaces, for example, here is two walls, and we're seeing everything from the top. Imagine listener is here, the emitter is here, and we treat the reflective surfaces like mirrors. So it's the same as light. So we decide to create an image source, which is a reflection of this emitter on the other side of the reflective surface. We create a virtual emitter there, and we just, and also on this reflective surface, and then we emit sound from them to the listener. So the distance between and the listener is the same as the distance traveled by the sound from the emitter bouncing up, for example, this wall here, going back to the listener, the same one here for this distance here. So because we create these image sources in your game, like virtual emitters, that's how we make it so that they sound further away, more closer, or yeah. Okay. So let's say we want to use more than one reflections. These two examples I just showed, they reflect once before going to the listener. What if we want them to reflect twice? So we just do the algorithm another time on the image sources. So we take the image source, we have the reflective surface, create a mirror image source. This one's a second order image source, and then we emit from there to the listener. So this distance here is the same as this distance here.
And when you say then, first and second, third order, yeah, that really is just the number of reflections.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
So first order are those, they touched the wall once and then came back to the listener. And this one is second order because they touch, the sound touches two reflective surfaces before reaching the listener. And then we can go to a third order, and at that point we take the second order and we do the same, and we can go to a fourth order too. And that's the maximum we can do for our reflect effect. So maximum fourth orders. At fourth order, it's kind of, yeah, I think it's enough. I don't think anybody would want more, but anyway.
Well, and a good question coming in from the chat, you know, the increased cost of, you know, adding these additional orders, and it's something that we'll put the profiler on when we're going through it. So we'll give you a picture of what that cost, and as we add that complexity will paint you a picture of that.
General rule, you could think that like exponentially it's growing. The number of image sources grows exponentially while you go a higher order. But then it depends if those paths are found, because we like before. And that brings me to this image here. You can see optimizing the image search algorithm. So before 2019.2, we were just calculating all the image sources of all the emitters. But like, for example, maybe you don't only have like a listener and an emitter. Maybe you have like a lot of emitters everywhere. And then we would calculate all the image sources of all of those respective to like the geometry. For example, here the blue parts are all the geometry we sent to spatial, the blue surfaces. So instead of doing that, what we do is a little bit the same as in the last episode we saw that we were sending rays from the listener. So we send rays from the listener and we try to reach an emitter, and by touching some gem surfaces, bouncing off them, and then we can see which surfaces are interesting, and we want to create image sources with them. So we don't do it on all of them. It depends on the listener position, the emitter position, and then we fire rays. It's the same rays that we fired for diffraction, but we just also use them to calculate the image sources. So yeah, that's it. This is my presentation. Lots of math. Yep. Yeah, so if you have no questions, we can start and we can open a WAG game.
Yeah, and I wonder if, as people are out there kind of soaking in this demonstration, I'd be interested to hear from you in the chat if you have ideas of things that or experiences you've had where this idea of early reflections really resonates, right? Get it? Resonates. But I mean, what are scenarios that you experience in real life that are informed by this idea of early reflections? And I want to circle back to that. If we get a few good ones, it'd be nice to touch base with that, because ultimately early reflections, I think, is a tool that you can use to help inform the space just in a general kind of way, bring dynamics. There's also some cool opportunities in interactive audio as well. So put them into the chat. We'll circle back to it. And meanwhile, we're going to get hands-on. Take it away, Mads.
Hey, so yeah, I just wanted to introduce a bit with the practical things. In the right side, we've got Wwise and Unity in the left side. But most importantly, from compared to earlier, is that we started out as the 2.0, but I upgraded it to 2.4 because in general, it's a good idea to have the latest minor version. So you have the most bug fixes and such. And in this case, for example, when I upgraded from 2.0 to 2.4, there wasn't any bugs at all, any problems with that upgrade. So in that sense, it's a good idea to have the latest minor version. But fear not if you haven't upgraded, that if you use Wwise to generate sound banks from a 2.4 version and you have the integration as a 2.0, the sound bank should still work in the 2.0 version. So if you haven't done the integration in Unity, you can just also try it out in 2.4 and export the sound banks from there. But yeah,
that's a sweet.
So yeah, so from last time I added the main scene and the dungeon scene, the dungeon audio environment which has the sound bank for the dungeon and such. And we also have the secret room behind it in here. So all these scenes are added, and as you will have seen if we had this prior lessons, that I disabled the loading of the dungeon sound bank or the dungeon scene, so that we just have it in here and it doesn't load granularly when you go down to the dungeon, but we want to have it there so it's there all the time. We can make some changes and so on. And also I disabled the music itself, so we can pay attention to the spatial audio. Yeah, so Wwise Reflect.
There's some questions before, maybe I think could answer. As are physics defined as well, such as surface types or humidity? Maybe not humidity, but surface types, yes. So when the sound touches a surface, reflects from it, we apply a filter, and you choose which filter it's applied. It's called acoustic textures. We're going to see them. It's a frequency filtering. And then there's another question about, should we disable reverb sends from rooms? No, because I think early reflection and reverb are two different things. So I think you should keep both. The fourth order, even if you go to fourth order, it still doesn't sound like reverb. So you're better to have like both at the same time. So you're getting some reverb action with your sound, but at the same time you hear like single sounds coming from the walls. So mixing them together is fun. And then somebody said that the explanation was good, so yay!
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I think of early reflections as almost like slapback is maybe another way to define it, right? It's a very like, well, it happens early, right? Dry path, slapback, early reflection, and then that late reverb is a little more it's a little more diffuse, right? It's a kind of hand wavy environmental effect that does give you information from the room I'm in is small, medium, large, maybe. It has this configuration. But it's really that early reflection piece that has a discrete positionality to it. So it informs directionality. And yes, it really just comes back at you in a way that makes it different than reverb. Whereas reverb just kind of washes. Those early reflections are almost like tiny little delay taps.
So disable early reflections from reverb preset. Yeah. If you click on a room verb, for example, there's an early reflection section. You can remove that if you're using Reflect.
Yeah, this one. We'll do that when we come to it, right? But we can. I'm already in the mezzanine room, so we can do that right away.
Great.
I pick the mezzanine room aux bus here, and I can disable early reflections.
Awesome.
So also there's another question. Early reflections, are they made of higher frequencies? For our plugin, it's the sound, the complete sound. All the frequencies are sent to the plugin, and then we apply some like time delays on them depending on the distance. So what happens is really we create those image sources and we play the sound from those image sources, but then there's some distance attenuation, and there's curves just for Reflect if you want to filter higher frequencies, lower frequencies. We'll see them all today.
Yeah. Great question, Samantha. Good to see you. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, the representation of early reflections, the frequencies, it's in your hands. If you want to approach that level of realism where you're simulating what you've experienced, it's there for you. So great questions, great conversation going on in the chat room. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So do you want to? We can start off with making an aux bus with the Reflect. So in this case, I'll just to give you a sense of how the Wwise Adventure Game is set up. We have like these different audio buses, enemies, objects, player, voice, and so on. And under the world audio bus, we've got this aux, where we got positioned all the different aux buses from the different environments. Some of them, like for example, in the core and such, where you would usually just have one room In the old version where we had like the AK environments, we would use like separate ones to represent different positions inside the core here. So we created a bit, probably a bit more than was necessary, but we can try to change it gradually as we go through the entire thing. And yeah, so first we'll make a Reflect audio aux bus. And for that, I'll just right-click on the aux bus here and new child. And I could do it on like auxiliary bus like this, but eventually we also have a preset for it, early reflections auxiliary bus. So if I make this one and call it Reflect, you can see that it's already adding the Reflect effect here, where we've got all sorts of nice things inside.
A rainbow of fruit
And
flavors.
all of these, like the preset, the reflect effect, like by default, and acoustic textures that we didn't see is a preset that you can add in your game, in your project, like in project, a factory preset. I mean, a factory preset.
Yeah. And also the preset itself changes also some things like the channel configuration only to one channel, right?
Yeah, there is like a lot of configurations that need to be done for Reflect, and they're really like not intuitive. So we decided to create a preset so you don't need to think about it. It's already like the most optimized. Well, some of them, but we'll come back to this effect editor later. For now, let's use these curves right, like just like that.
And save. And what's the next thing?
And then can you just show where the factory asset is?
Oh yeah.
I mean, in project to add the factory asset of.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, true, yeah, like this.
Yeah. So here you need to have Reflect selected and added to your project so that this preset appears, the effect appears, and the virtual. I mean the acoustic textures that you're going to see right now.
And the acoustic textures, we got these ones that we also imported last time. Yeah.
But you can create your own, but
yeah, copy paste them in or make your own or whatever. So next up is adding the early reflections to the sound that we're actually using. So if you go into audio in the Project Explorer and go down to a voice of Damien here, and for those of you, he's the voice of the blacksmith. Okay, and go down to the bottom of it. Actually, I want to, because it's so low resolution, I want to re-manage some of these windows here. Like this, probably, and probably something like this is better. So you can see down in the bottom here, you can see early reflections for him. I could just like take the parent one, like something like world, because many of these things, and then assign an aux bus here. But for now, I think we'll just start out with this one and override parent. So it's different from the others. And on this one, we'll select the Reflect auxiliary bus.
So I don't know if anybody used Reflect before 19.2, but that was different. Before you would have a Reflect per game object, but now you have a Reflect aux bus per sound. So each of your sound can use a different one or can use no Reflect effect.
Yeah. All right. So, and we already disabled the mezzanine effects early reflections. So now we just have late reflections from late reverb from the room itself. When we go in there in the mezzanine room, the first room we go to when we go to the dungeon. And yeah, so let's start out. And how was it again? Do I need to generate sound banks for this?
No, I don't think so.
Let's try it out then.
I don't think so. And just connect.
So by connecting, it's gonna pick up all those changes you're saying and communicate that to the sound banks that are already generated for the game.
Because like we did everything in the authoring, and we had technically nothing to do in the game because we already have geometries added from the last episode. The geometries are reflective surfaces too. So normally, just those new things in the authoring would be enough.
Okay, let's jump to the dungeon.
So, like we see right now, there's already some reflections going on. They're all yellow, so it means they're just a first order reflection. They touch one thing before reaching the listener.
And let's
Sometimes
unpack this this spider web of beautiful geometry, curves, and whatnot. You said the yellow ones were first order
so
reflections,
the yellow ones are first order reflections. Yep.
and those are
Then-
coming from the acoustic mirror that you mentioned, from that reflection. And which one is the listener on that beautiful graph there?
The listener normally is blue. So right now it has a little house around it because it means that it's inside a room.
Great.
So the little house comes on top of the listener. But so the listener is blue. The emitters are yellow normally. And then you can see how Mats is changing what you see in the game objective viewer. So if you unselect reflection paths, you can really see which ones were the reflection paths. So it's all the yellow ones. The purple ones are diffraction paths, and the green ones are diffraction but with rooms and portals. So the sound that comes from another room that gets diffracted on the doorway.
Wow. Wow.
And so
and the
this
emitter
means-
itself, like the blacksmith voice, is
is the point where it's behind, this one.
Great.
Behind, under the mezzanine. You can add names. We just removed them because there's a lot of names, but you can add a name so you can see checkpoint Damien is our emitter. But there are other emitters like torches and the dagger we have in our hand, but those we didn't reflect on it, so they don't do any reflections.
Great. That's beautifully detailed. And Mads, as you navigate the player where the listener is, those all update in real time with the connection to Wwise.
Yeah, like right now, there's something interesting going on.
Oh, I moved.
Moved.
Sorry.
We could see there is a reflection that, oh my god, please. Like a light here. So what's happening? It's a reflection that touches the floor, but before it reflects on the floor, it diffracts on this staircase. So reflections can also diffract too. They can diffract before reflecting, and then they can diffract after reflecting. So maybe if we go behind the statue, we could see the other way around.
Yeah, let's actually go down. I think it's be nice with having the player. There's a lot of game objects you can see, right? Let's find the player here, or the main camera actually. Main camera, just so we have that hooked all the time to what we're looking at. Main camera, there we got it. And let's go. Oh, I need to follow like this.
Great.
And go in here.
So if you remove the diffraction paths, we will see it better.
I feel like I'm at a rave and those are like lasers.
Let's go close up here and we can maybe see
Yeah, so there you can see some that reflect just after the emitter. It reflects on the floor and then diffracts on this statue. If you rotate a little bit,
like this.
and then you go a little bit on the left.
Yeah, I just need to take the follow capture off here. And you can see
Here, yeah, exactly.
diffraction and then reflection on the floor.
Yeah.
Can we toggle reflect on and off or mute it?
Oh yeah. Let's actually go to It's just easy to go here.
I saw a question.
So
Oh yeah, somebody asked about the order that is in the initialization settings, so we'll show it after. So yes, the reflection order is the same for all instances. Yeah.
So Mads, what are we hearing right now?
Right now I soloed the Reflect Aux bus, so that's all you're hearing. So no late reverbs and so on, and other sounds.
Okay, moment of listening.
Word travels fast in these parts. As the evil sent a ball of venom my way, I turned to flee and my sword swung on my belt, deflecting the poison.
Okay, you want to swap to maybe just the dry path?
Let's do that.
You'll be venturing into the woodlands. Word travels fast in
Let's
these parts.
take,
Luck alone
and we'll
will save
actually
me.
have to mute this one
I may
and
make
this one.
implements of battle, but I'm no warrior. Here you are, adventurer. One heart.
But now we can hear torches and stuff.
Serve me well
Yeah.
when
It's a
then
clear
I'll need to
illustration though.
Luck
solo.
alone
What
will
we
save
can
me.
do,
I may make implements of battle, but I'm no warrior.
This is the
We
dry
can-
path, right?
Our
just
adventurer,
mute and unmute
one-hearted
reflect.
pickaxe that is
If you remove all mutes and
Oh, yeah.
solos,
ore. As the evil sent a ball of
So now
venom my
unmuted
way,
Reflect.
I turned to
See.
flee and my sword
but without soloing though, because like when you solo, it's different, right?
Yeah, but I also have the blacksmith soloed, so it should both the blacksmith and the Reflect.
Right. So you can just
do it like this.
mute reflect, so we hear it without and we hear it with.
Here you are, adventurer. One hearty pickaxe.
This is with.
Well, when mining
Just do it like
ore.
this so you can hear.
I think it would be easier if you just remove everything, like all the solos, and then just mute and unmute reflect.
One hearty pickaxe
All right.
that has served me
So
well
now I'm muting
when
Reflect.
mining ore. You would best be careful. I was there yesterday to gather wood for my smithy, and the dark plants had already taken root. Here you are, adventurer.
I think also, like, just as a side note, I think also the effect from the room itself is not that loud.
In precision.
I mean, I heard a really big difference if
You
you
would best be
unmute
Okay.
reflect.
I was there yesterday to gather wood for my smithy, and the dark plants had already taken root.
Because right now the
Adventurer.
sound was a little bit like muffled because there was a statue. We're in front of the statue right now, right? It's blocked by the statue, but by putting reflect on, you can hear it from other sides, coming from the walls and the ceiling.
As the evil sent a ball of
Yeah,
venom
and when I
my way,
mute Reflect,
I turned
like,
to
because we don't have early reflections on the mezzanine room,
belt.
it will sound kind of weird, right? We can try to put that on as well
In
here.
precision, you may also be able to
Maybe turn up this
reflect
room.
them. Here you are.
I don't think we're gonna hear the early reflection.
That has served me well when mining
Yeah.
ore.
I don't know if it's
Luck and precision.
What we can do though
Also be able to
is
do it.
exaggerate the reflect too. You know?
Greetings, adventurer.
Oh yeah, we can.
I heard you'll be
But wait, let me check our steps in this presentation.
Yeah.
I may make implements of
So
battle,
we're getting feedback
but I'm
from
no
chat
warrior.
that they can hear the
Here you
difference,
are,
and it's great to be
adventurer.
presenting this to you in stereo audio. You know,
Well, when
please let us
mining
know if
ore.
there's something else you want us to, you know, take a moment to listen to critically.
Luck alone saved me. I may make implements of
There's a
battle,
question about
but I'm no
how
warrior.
to prepare the
Here you
room
are,
geometry
adventurer.
and the surface
One
reflectors,
hearty
and I think that was
pickaxe that has
episode 2,
served me
yeah?
well when mining ore.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of questions. I'm going back up and I'm like, oh, I just
Yesterday to gather wood for my smithy.
Yeah, so meanwhile, you look at the questions. A quick thought here: when you prepare the room itself, what you do is basically just on the room here at the AkSurfaceReflector, which defines the mesh that is sent to Wwise. So that defines like the mesh of itself, but then also you need the Wwise environment. I go in here to the AK room, see what it was like. This one, where that just defined the AK room with the AK room as a dungeon mezzanine, and then that subscribes to this aux bus.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we had to have watched all the episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody asked, just one reflect bus is enough for all sounds. So it depends on your game. For example, in the Wwise Audio Lab, which is like a sandbox game in Unreal, we use two different reflect bus. We have like one for everything the listener emits, like footsteps and the gun sound, and we have another reflect aux bus for like third person objects. Like there's a radio that has a different aux bus, so we have like different curves for them. So the difference is if you want to have different curves, like in the editor that we didn't show yet exactly, but if you want to have different curves of attenuation and spread, then maybe we'll do that after I finish this question. So if you want to have different curves of attenuation and stuff, you'll need a different reflect aux bus. And then somebody asks again, you can't have a reflect bus with first order and a reflect bus with second order. No, the order is the same for all.
Yeah, it's defined in Unity. It's defined whenever you start the init bank, meaning that also, like, because the sound bank or the init bank is loaded when you enter a scene in Unity, you also sometimes have to restart, start the game and then go out again, so it reinitializes the init bank, and then you've got the changes. So yeah, all of that is in the init bank.
Maybe you can do it at the end, change the order.
There's some toggles in the UI in the Wwise Adventure Game for spatial audio.
Yeah. So yeah, should we just jump to that reflection order? Yeah, it's the next topic, right? So what I'll do, I'll just stop the sound here, save everything. So all right, and go to edit, and then to project settings, and in here we've got these Wwise initialization settings, and here we can toggle set all different kinds of things, like how much memory I'm using in the different banks and so on. But there's also in the bottom of this common user settings, you'll see a spatial audio settings, and here you can define all sorts of things, and one being the max reflection order. And so we just drag that up. The only thing here we realized when we tested this is that if you're working with a project like the Wwise Adventure Game, for example, when you've done a lot of things beforehand, and just make sure that you toggle this up, down, max reflection order, because at some place in history, we deselected the Windows and Android here, so you can set different reflection orders per platform.
Yeah.
But you'll just have to tick that on whenever you add the reflection order, set the reflection order.
That's awesome.
And then head out, and I'll just save again. And I'll enter in play mode, and I'll right away go out of play mode, so it reinitializes the init bank. And then I'll enter, and I'll reconnect the profiler. Oops. Connect. And let's jump to the dungeon. And go to the game object profiler. Ta-da!
Okay, so gradients of yellow and orange are the reflection orders?
Yeah, so orange is second order, then between orange and red is third, and then red is fourth.
Cool. Let's answer this CPU cost question that keeps coming up.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for continuing to remind us. So we're at fourth order. This is the highest number of orders that we offer. And let's just look at the profiler. We're only using it on a single voice. So this will give you at least...
But there's a lot of geometry. It's not just boxes. Like there's a little dome at the mezzanine, and then there is a staircase and a statue. We can move around maybe at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just
I think I saw
make sure I don't
15.
die.
Adventurer.
15 was the
I heard
biggest
you'll be
one.
venturing into the woodlands.
Oh,
Word travels fast
But
in these
see,
parts.
it's not
You would
always
best be
15 because of our
I was there
optimization.
yesterday to gather wood for my smithy, and the dark plants that pickaxe that has served me well when mining ore. You would best be careful. I was
So
there
we're profiling
yesterday to
fourth
gather
order
wood for my
reflections
smithy, and the
on
dark plants had
the
already taken
voice
root.
of the
With
blacksmith
luck and
in a
precision,
scene that has a lot of complex geometry authored, peaking at about 15% of the CPU,
But really rare.
but pretty rarely.
yeah.
And yeah, so now the questions are, what are the specs of that machine's CPU? Okay, yeah. So it's a deeper question, really. I don't think Mads is running.
An i5, I say 7600K, I think, CPU, and I have a 1066 gigabyte graphic card. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah.
So yeah, fourth order is really intense. I mean, you don't need to have fourth order so that it sounds fun. First order is already super nice. Okay, let's
So
not.
and we should also just second thought also. One thing I want to say is that what we've done now is we implemented the spatial audio pretty roughly, and you can do many of what we did methods we did much more effectively. So you have, for example, take the room here we're in, right, the mezzanine room, and notice how that's. Oh, actually going to the game object profiler. Notice that, for example, that there's a lot of mesh edges up here that I didn't clean out in this version. And the same for many other places where I could clean up the meshes so that it doesn't take as much performance. So yeah. So this is a rough usage of or implementation of spatial audio, but you could definitely do it more effectively and then do an evaluation on, is it enough for me to just have second order reflections or something like that, because I want to make it super smooth on a low-end mobile device or something like that.
Can we do the round trip to flip it back to first order just to get some metrics on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe we could put 2 rooms also.
Yeah, so you got the numbers right. So I'll just go to Edit, Project Settings, take this window over here because we use it multiple times.
And is that reflection order, is it dynamic? Or is it an initialization setting?
Initialization, yeah.
Initialization, yeah, I don't think you could.
Okay,
I don't think you can do it
but
dynamically.
as Samantha's suggesting, like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have one reflect bus for the cutscene, one for the other 2 different orders? No.
I don't think so. Unless
Actually,
you stop the sound engine and you reinitialize it.
I think actually there's a function in the Wwise Unity integration that you can do the set order reflections. And I've used that in the other Wwise Adventure Game when I set up spatial audio there.
You're right. There's an
So you can
API
actually do this
function.
dynamically. You can do it on the fly if you want to. If you want,
You're
for
right,
example, the
you're right.
settings.
I just remembered. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, there is an API function you can call, set reflection order or something from AK Spatial Audio. If you create a script, you could change the order. Yep.
You could change the world.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
we put
so yeah, I'll just enter play mode and exit play mode quite quickly.
Thanks
And
for
then,
that question. It's great.
Yeah. Then we'll reconnect the profiler and head into the game, which I cannot see. Go to the dungeon and go to the profiler so you can get a sense of how that looks.
Venturing into the woodlands. Word travels fast in these parts. You would best be
I'll run a
careful.
bit around.
I was there yesterday to gather wood for my smithy, and the dark
Peeking
plants
around
had
8
already taken root.
on rare occasion,
You may also
but sub 1.
luck alone save
Most of the time.
I
Yeah.
may make implements of battle, but I'm no warrior. With luck
And also,
and precision,
yeah, that's
you may
it.
also
So now somebody asked if we could add a reflection,
I may make implements of
surface
battle,
reflection component somewhere. And I think we had like an example with the bookshelves that you wanted to show last time. We
Oh, yeah.
didn't.
Here you are,
Yeah.
adventurer.
Definitely. Do you want to see first, like one first order reflection as well, just before we head on to the next example? So
Okay.
down to 1, and then let's see how that goes for the.
So that was second order,
This was
Yeah.
second, yeah.
Great.
Oops.
peaking at about 8,
0 order.
but most of the time
Yeah.
under 1.
And hit into play mode and out of play mode again, and then into play mode.
Skills.
So the reason why you actually need to that you will load the other sound bank before it, when you enter a scene, is because then you can play sounds directly without going into play mode. So it's pretty good excuse for having that option.
Here you are, adventurer. One hardy pickaxe that has served me well when mining ore. Luck alone saves me. I may make implements of battle.
Wow, peaking at
but
3
I'm
maybe?
no warrior. Greetings, adventurer.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
busy venturing into the woods. Word travels fast in these parts.
So non-scientific results, first order, peaking around 3%, but super sub 1. Second order, peaking around 8, again idling under 1. And then fourth order, I think we peaked at, what did we say, 15?
15?
Yeah.
About 15, yeah. I'll just set it up to 4 again, just so we have that for later on. Looks much. Maybe, or what about 2?
Keep one. Oh, maybe 2, but like
Yeah,
4 is
2.
it's too much stuff going on.
All right.
Like, what is going on? There's lines everywhere.
All right.
Lasers.
So, let's look. Okay, so acoustic textures. Yeah.
Oh wait, before that, somebody wanted to add a reflect or an AkSurfaceReflector component.
But that's actually that's also my thoughts. But I just wanted to show it while doing one of these bookshelves. That was what you suggested, right?
Yeah.
So I think we talked about showing, but we didn't really get to show, is that there's a huge advantage to like reusing some of your objects, like especially in like the Wwise Adventure Game, we have a lot of reused objects. For example, these bookshelves, we have like the crates here are used almost everywhere. So they're just used in like different situations. I guess some of these stones is also like some generic stones we use other places. Like just take something like 4 stones. I think you can see like here that we pretty much use those everywhere to get us like make the room like look nice without actually having to redesign a new object. But something like this bookshelf, you can already see here that it's used multiple times here in the library, and that is all using a prefab. So a prefab is like a container you have in your project, where you can generalize some management of your assets. So you can change some things on it and then say apply, and then it happens to all the objects. So why not use this for the AkSurfaceReflector as well? So if you take something like, let's take this bookshelf here and go below it, and instead of using the box collider here, let's make a new object below it, like a cube. And let's just shape it to how this looks, like this. And a bit up here. Doesn't have to be that thorough. Okay, so now we got a cube here, and I want to change the box collider. We're not needing the collider for anything, but the mesh itself, we need that, but we don't need it to be enabled. We just need the mesh filter up here. So with that, we'll add the AkSurfaceReflector
You can remove the mesh renderer component completely.
Oh
if you
yeah,
want.
I guess I can. But I just want to have it so I can click it on and off so you can see that it happens. And let's say that like in this case, we also want to use some diffraction and set it to
Yeah, in
only
this case,
in textures here.
diffraction doesn't really matter because you're never going to diffract on this bookshelf. You're never going to be behind it.
Yeah, but
All
maybe
the-
there's another bookshelf somewhere that you might diffract on.
Yeah,
So in that
can
case,
enable or not the diffraction.
and in the acoustic textures here, I can choose all the different acoustic textures that we have inside the share sets here, virtual acoustics, and you have a list of these.
And those
You can
share
pick
sets are
the-
just presets that are
yeah, factory assets.
factory assets that we include with Reflect. You can create
Yeah.
drywall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can create as many different wood with.
We'll show what how you create one and
Yeah.
what it looks like inside.
I think this one is like a kind of a bright wood, so let's take that one. And so now that we got this component on, we can right click in the corner here, or click in the corner, left click in the corner. Not there actually. Go to the object itself, the game object here. Or the object here it is. Yeah. Right click on that one, edit game object, and then apply to prefab. And when you see that, let's open one of these other ones up. You can see that the cube is not there, but when I do this for this one, apply, you can see that the cube is there. And in all of these other ones, the cube is there as well, with the AkSurfaceReflector.
Awesome.
So if you just like jump to another mesh here, you can see, yep, it's the same mesh. So let's try to save this and then head into connect the profiler and play, and then go to the game object profiler so you can see how it looks. And go to the library itself here, and let's find the main camera.
Does the room
Go to
also
the right.
have an acoustic material?
If you want your room to have a surface that reflects sound, you need to add the AkSurfaceReflector. You can add it on the same game object that has an AK room. It just needs to be the shape that you want it to be. Or else you can add a new game object with another shape. Or also the AkSurfaceReflector takes a mesh as a parameter, so you could have a different mesh in there for reflections.
Yeah.
So
And also just to if you do choose to put this on the same object as you have a AK room shaped around it, make sure to ensure that the sides of the box is pointing inwards, so you have the room sides in there for the mesh. I guess because like when you send the mesh to Wwise, you want to have the sides inside and not outside for the reflections.
it depends what's your mesh, but I
Yeah.
think that. That's a good question. I'm wondering if the quad will have triangles only on one side, and I'm not sure. I think it's on both sides, but trying to
Well,
remember.
let's try it out in a second, but
Yeah.
But in this case, at least, where you can see all the bookshelves now are all represented by this AkSurfaceReflector, and I believe
The color is different. So someone asked, did you put an acoustic material in the room itself? No, okay.
in this case, it's just because it's behind.
The
something.
mezzanine one was like blue because it had no acoustic texture. That's the default color. And then these new things that we added are purple. So that's the color of our wood bright. What's going on?
Yeah, we can put some color on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no
You want to do
color.
that? All right.
Yeah.
So set color on this asset. Let's say red, and go to game object profiler. And it happened for this one apparently, but
the other ones are wood. Looks like it's AkSurfaceReflector wood.
Maybe I applied it when I. Let's see. Oh, it's maybe just be a standard. Let's see if you can just click on this one and take this value. Okay. I want to apply all of this to my game object. I'll go to, I can see that, okay, so in this one, I can see that all the rest of these acoustic textures seem to have this exclusion. So when it's highlighted, it means that on this object, you change something from the original prefab. So I just reset this one. It goes back to normal. Okay, let's open up the prefab then. Open prefab. And in this one, I'll choose it's still the bright. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's,
Okay, but still,
yeah.
it's the acoustic texture of the vacuum. I don't know why I took wood instead of wood bright, but anyway.
Let's see if it if I do like this. Yeah,
Okay,
then it
now
applies
everything's
backwards. Okay, so it applied wood apparently, but when I let's reset this one to, oh, maybe it's because I need to reset the object itself. Or what? Let's take this, click on this one, overrides, revert all, go back to the, it's now wood. But what did happen here? Okay, yeah, so the Wwise type itself was unhooked when I said revert all. So let's apply this one like this.
That's something
Let's
else.
see. Yeah. All right, so wood. Now we're just using wood. And let's see if, okay, so all these, you can see that it's not bold and it does inherit the original prefab. So like for a test, I could do something like set it to wood bright and then, oops, on the top of this game object here, say override to apply all. And now when I click this one, I click another wood bright. Good. So it's all of these wood bright.
Awesome.
Let's reconnect.
And the color that you set that surface to in Wwise is how the geometry for it shows up in the profiler?
Yeah, so the color I set in, I jumped to the wrong thing. The color I set it to in here corresponds to the effect, the asset I set it to in the designer here, the bright wood here. So that corresponds to the profiler here. Game object profiler.
Great.
If we want to check quickly what an acoustic texture is set up as,
still a few that didn't get the prefab.
Well, and pause for a second. There's a great question that came in a bit ago. You know, does Wwise Reflect propagate through portals? And I think we see in this one image right here, bam, propagating through that portal.
They do.
So it took a long time to circle around to that question, but bam, there's your illustration. Absolutely.
That's because in the last episode I said the portals cut through the reflections, the AkSurfaceReflector. Like if we zoom on this mezzanine and its portal, we can see that there is no reflective surface in the portal because the portal just cuts through, and that's why it lets the sound go through it, and also the sound / reflections.
I'll just put the Dynamically file in here just to.
But then we won't. Okay.
Oh, you want to test it with the portal? Yeah, sure.
You can go on the other.
That's fine. We'll put it here.
All right.
And then reconnect the profiler.
Ah, the power of profiling. It is a gift.
And did you put it under the?
I think
ground.
Is it inside the? Where is it right now? It's right there, but I think it's touching the other room, so it doesn't go through the portal.
Okay.
So it's because of the sphere here that.
Yeah, this trigger thing is really, really, really big.
Yeah.
If it touches another room, it may the object may be set to inside the other room. And you can see that really easily if you go under the emitter and you enable the name, you will see in which room it is right now. So if you have any problems like we just had, I mean, in the
Oh.
Beyond 3D viewer.
Oh, like this. Okay, so disable this one, go down here. And you want to see the name of these?
Yeah.
This is also circling back to a question from earlier in the chat, so thank you for that question. Here we go.
You would best be careful.
So like this, can you see it here? Yeah, mezzanine room.
The room, 2 dot mezzanine room. Just saying, like, I don't know why we have a number now, but
Because they need to reconnect, I think, something like checkpoint gaming.
so yeah, and then under it, the room in which the emitter is, and also for the listener, you can see in which room it is.
Yeah.
So if you have any problems, like why am I not hearing the sound? Just check if they're in different rooms, in the same room, if there's a portal connecting both of them, blah blah blah.
And
Okay,
actually,
so
in this case, maybe we should actually add a because we don't, as you see, we have like reflections on the bookshelves here. We have reflections inside the mezzanine room, but we don't have reflections inside the library because none of the mesh have been set to the AkSurfaceReflector. And all of this mesh, actually.
Oh, you mean the outer walls? Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now we're not getting any reflections because the sound is not in the same room. Like the reflections go through the portal, but they don't reflect more than they already did. So you need to have the emitter and the listener in the same room.
So let me just first add a AkSurfaceReflector to this one, and this is probably concrete. Enable some diffraction. I think I also need to enable the
No, you
diffraction
don't
edge
need diffraction for
because
that.
of this one. Oh
No,
yeah,
you
for
don't
this,
need
okay, for
diffraction.
this example, yeah.
You're never gonna be behind the walls of your
No,
room.
unless we are going out here actually, because this is the example.
But we
talked
already
about last
had
time.
something on those. We added on the
yeah.
other one.
Yeah, that might be fine. Yeah. All right, sure. And we have reflection on this. We have great. And we move the Damien campfire here inside the room.
If you were around for episode 1, you would know that the Damien campfire was an inspired choice for testing all of this. They took dialogue I recorded for the blacksmith and made it come from this glorious campfire. The beauty of collaboration.
Yes, this is the last episode called Wwise Reflect. Yay!
Library.
Other questions?
Deflecting the poison. Here you are, adventurer. One hardy pickaxe that has served me well when mining ore. Luck alone saved me. I may make implements of battle, but I'm no warrior. You would best be careful. I was there yesterday to gather wood for my smithy, and the dark plants had already taken root.
So now you can see that our new surface reflector is gray because concrete is gray. If you zoom out,
but I'm no warrior.
Yeah, this
you
one.
would
Yeah.
best be careful.
so we can add another color to it if we want to.
Definitely.
And the dark
I
plants
think
had
maybe I
already
would like to
taken
take another
Here
editor.
you are, adventurer. One hardy
Also, oh wait,
pickaxe
before.
that has served me well
Before
The
doing
what?
anything,
mining
stop.
ore.
Okay.
You would best be careful.
And can you stop the sound? Because I want to say something.
And the dark
So it looks like in this, I never knew, but it looks like, no, go back, zoom out.
Okay.
It looks like this surface, this game object, well, this mesh we added the surface reflector on has more than one submesh. So we can see we added concrete and everything's gray except for the top there where it's none. I guess this one is a different
It's a
submesh.
hole, I think.
Or is it the hole? But what is it? Blue?
I think it's just a hole actually, because this is up where you have
But it's
the
blue.
these. like-
These. And so this is a submesh, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but I don't think it's part of the mesh itself here because there's no.
Click on the PB mesh 136162
Yeah, this one.
on the right side. Yep.
1050 triangle and three submeshes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's okay. So that's cool because like we added concrete and it added it to the first submesh, But if you want to add other reflections to like different parts of your mesh, you need to have submeshes, and you can add a different acoustic texture for all. I didn't know we had an example today, but we do. So you just change the size here to 3. And then, well, everything's concrete by default if you want to, or you can change them to different things. And let's add different colors to see which are these
Definitely.
textures.
I'll just take this one out here just so I can we inspect some of these colors in the meantime. So what I put on it was curtains, I think, and like green. Now we have concrete. Which is gonna be blue. And what was drywall? Set color? Yeah, yellowish. Save. Play first and then reconnect the profiler so we can see the names of the game objects. Go to the library.
You best be careful. I was
So
there
I guess-
yesterday to gather wood for my smithy, and the dark plants had already taken root.
I don't know actually how.
What's the top one?
Greetings, adventurer.
On the top, we
I
saw a
heard you
different
be
color last
venturing into
time.
the woodlands. Word travels
Yeah,
fast
I think
in
it's
these
that
parts,
must be
as the
yellow then, or
evil
what?
sent a
Drywall.
foul venom my way. I
The
turned
third
to
one,
flee, and
like the
my
third
sword
submesh,
swung
maybe?
on my
Can you
belt,
try to put
deflecting the poison.
wire frame?
Greetings,
Oh, yeah.
adventurer. I heard you'll be venturing into the woodlands. Word travels
yeah.
fast in
Yeah, I
these
guess
You can see
it
that
is.
it's yellow,
Here
yeah.
you are,
Yeah.
adventurer. One hardy pickaxe that
That's a good
has
point.
served me well when
But I
finding
like we
gold.
didn't think about
You
how
would
much
best be
like
careful.
having specific
I was
methods
there
in
yesterday to gather
doing our
wood for my
submeshes
smithy,
meshes and such.
and
So
the dark
there's
plants
definitely no
already
conscious
taken
logic
root.
in like how we structured these
Greetings,
submeshes.
adventurer. I heard you
Yeah,
venturing
no,
into
no,
the
no.
woodlands.
But
That's-
like the boxes have 2 submeshes. The boxes is a cool example. When I implemented this feature, I used the box.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good example actually. We can do that as well. Just take a box.
And then also while you do that, just bring to the attention that like we didn't add diffraction on this big room, and we don't have those white lines. The white lines were all the diffraction edges, so we can see that we shouldn't have added diffraction on the mezzanine because it doesn't really matter. You're never gonna diffract on the outside of this room. So those things can help like reduce CPU usage of spatial audio in general, having less. That's episode 2, but yeah, a reminder.
Yeah, so go back, check out episode 2. You can dig deep into diffractions with us in the same way that right now on episode 3 we're into Reflect and all of the fun things that come with that. That submesh stuff was cool. It was nice to dig into that.
So let's look at this actually when we have the boxes here. You can clearly see that
Yellow and
there's
purple.
different types of meshes here. All right.
Okay, so let's see those acoustic textures. What are they? Double click on one of them.
Yeah. Take a drywall here.
So it's like a frequency filter. You can choose to filter the low, mid-high, and high frequencies. It's a little bit like abstract, but yeah, that's how you can create a new acoustic texture. For example, I think the curtains is really well. This one reflects everything. Curtains absorbs. This one absorbs more. The frequency is high, and the more it absorbs, the curtains absorbs mid, low, and high. But yeah, if you click curtains, yeah. Wood also, I think, absorbs high.
So did you say wood?
Yeah, wood.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty much
bright. Let's see. Yeah, well,
bright will absorb more low, but you know, we created those. It's a little bit arbitrary, but you can play with them. You can create new ones.
Yeah, and this is
the offset. This changes. Oh wait, sorry. If you click on one of them, for example, drywall,
Yeah.
No, not drywall, another one, a cuter one. Curtains, yeah. If you click the offset, it's just gonna like change everything equally. So if you move the
Oh,
offset,
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna, the effective value is gonna go up or lower, but they're gonna change. They're gonna keep their different absorption percentages.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, you can define your own materials if that's just to show you. You can like copy and paste into your own work unit here.
Oh,
Make
you can
our own.
create a new one by clicking on the
Oh yeah, I can
icon.
also do this. Yeah,
New acoustic
acoustic texture.
texture.
But if I want to start somewhere, I can just use that.
Yeah. And then since you added it here, it's going to appear in your Unity project with our WAPI Thamian texture. No, there's too many Thamians now.
Yeah, let's see if it. Yeah, on the default work unit, yeah, we can find Damien now.
Yeah.
So his texture is mostly low, I guess.
Okay, some science coming in. Any scaled relation to absorption coefficients?
I'm not sure what it means. Scaled relation. Be right by making my own virtual mixing studio.
So Reflect is available today. You can go download it. You can go experiment with these things. If you want to build out a set of materials based on a handbook of acoustic properties, yeah, go to it. If you want to, understand what is available to you within the tool set, get your hands on it. Listen to it for yourself. There have been some really valuable examples throughout episode 3 here that really show off Reflect as a piece of your spatialization. So encouraging folks who are following along to get your hands and ears on it.
You can use it without a license, but you'll never be able to like create sound banks. But you can use it and try it out with connecting your Wwise authoring to your game. See if you like it, and then if you want to include it in your game, then you need the license. Okay, I had an explanation. Example: absorption coefficient of common materials. Wow. I'm not sure. We really just have this frequency absorption number, and I don't think it's related to these coefficients you're sending. And I'm not even sure what the frequency ranges are. You'll have to check the documentation to know exactly, maybe. Okay, is there a distance limit? So, okay, I think it's time to open the Reflect editor and go through everything that's in there.
Yeah, let's do that. I just wanted to see how cool this one looked with Submeshes, because I didn't know that.
But we have no reflections on it right now.
Yeah. Not on that one.
Deflecting the poison.
Oh, actually, I think there's some.
With luck and precision,
that's the wall behind it.
you
Actually,
may also be able to deflect them.
You have to.
Greetings,
No, it doesn't really.
I heard
It's not the best thing to get some reflections on that, right? It's round. I got one.
Precision.
yeah.
You may also
Well, I think something also on the. Let's see if we can.
Greetings, adventurer.
Yeah, whatever.
I heard you
It's probably also one of the more messy meshes. So in this case, it would be good to just define your own custom mesh and then use that as because it's also probably a lot of triangles.
But for diffraction, I think it would work well.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're ready, we can open a Reflect Effect editor.
Yeah, so I'll just go back to the designer, go into audio. We have the Reflect almost already selected and double click the Wwise Reflect.
Yeah. So while we're playing, we can see the image sources on top of the graph, because this graph here is volume on the Y and distance on the X. Okay, yeah. Let's stop there, yeah. So right now we can see there's 3 reflections going on in. What happened? They disappeared.
Yeah, I think maybe. Did I hit some solo thing?
No, just close it and go to F6 for the profiler layout. And then open the voices graph. And then you can search for reflect in the filter, or you can find it here, but it's okay. And you can click on the brown part. Yeah, okay. So there's 2 reflections right now. So the X is distance, so that's the distance the sound has traveled. So from the emitter hitting a surface coming back, so that's the distance it traveled. And there's multiple curves. So the first curve, the red one, is an easy curve. Oh, first, before I go there, somebody asked, is there a distance? So the max distance here is 100.
Yeah.
So that's the maximum distance you could have reflect. You can change the max distance if you're not connected. Right now it's great because we're connected. So yeah, so the first red. Yeah. But then it was gonna change the sound.
And reconnect.
But yeah, so yeah, let's check out all the curves.
Yeah, so what I just did here, just to give a sense of what I'm managing down here, is that I actually selected the distance curves here, because there is the kind of the x-axis changes based on what you're selecting. So we have the distance and we have the diffractions.
Yeah, the distance curve. So the first one, distance attenuation, is the one you know. The more the distance is big and the more you want it to be attenuated. If you want to, I mean, you can change the curve so it does something else, but that's the same. It's just that because we're in a plugin, we don't know what the distance attenuation of the original sound was. So there's a new one here for only the distance attenuation of the reflections. Then there's a, if we just skip the pink one for 2 seconds, there's a spread. So that one is, wait, where are you going? Okay. There's a spread, and then there's a low pass and high pass. So that also are this kind of the same curves as in your attenuation of your sound. But then there's one that is different, the distance attenuation, emitter versus listener. So this one is difficult to visualize on the graph because the distance is different. This is the distance between the emitter and the listener. So really, like if you're far away from the emitter or close to the listener, maybe you would want to hear the reflections differently. For example, if you're really, really close to your emitter, maybe you don't really want to hear all the reflections. Like it's gonna be too many things. You want really like the user to like focus maybe on the sound the emitter is doing. So at that point, you could like lower the volume of your reflections. So that's a different distance attenuation. And then there's diffraction, the diffraction curves. And those, right now, we can see that, oh, by the way, go back to the distance, because I don't think we really explained that there's like 2 gray lines, and those represent the 2 image sources. If you add the flag, you will see it more.
Let's add the flags, like, do you want an image source name?
Yeah, there's like 2 different image sources. You can see them in the list on the left, and you can see them in the graph, and they change in real time in the graph. So their distance will change. And if one disappears, they disappear. So that can help you like set up your curves. Right now there's 4.
Yep.
In the list on the left side, there's more than 1 column. if you move on the right, we can see the other columns. Right now, we can only see the column image source name. In the left side,
Oh
in the
yeah,
left side,
true, yeah,
there's
true,
a
yeah.
list.
Like this. I
Yeah,
can just make it
there's
bigger.
a thing under for navigating instead of changing the size.
Oh, under like this one.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, sure.
So you have like the
Just wanted to show
distance,
it all.
you have the textures. For example, the first one is hitting a concrete texture and then is bending on an edge for diffraction. The other one, concrete and then carpet, things like that. You can see the diffraction angle they have when they diffract. And so this is when you go into the diffraction curves. You can have different curves depending on their diffraction angles. So if you change to the diffraction curves,
Yeah. So something like.
so this one is a diffraction attenuation. So the more it diffracts and the more the angle, the more something happens. So all of these diffraction attenuations, the X is a diffraction angle percentage from 0 to 100. There's a low pass, a high pass, and just a volume attenuation or diffraction. And then you can see our different ones here. There's one that is super diffracted, almost 100%. There's two at 75. There's one at 55. What are people saying?
Profiler is a great tool. Yeah, believe it.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have this stuff in real time when you're connected to your experience. Hallelujah for that. Again, the two sets of controls really give you that ability to tweak things, but ideally you tweak until you're happy, right, within your environment, and then you're golden. And you just roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like we had an example with like 2 different aux buses, but that's it for the whole game. If you could like set it up for the curves and just leave it and add it to different don't close.
Yeah.
Add it to different sounds, because now we are only adding it to the Damien campfire sound, and you can add it to other sounds.
I actually also just realized that we are standing in the library right now, and we didn't remove the early reflections from the library.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't. It only removed it from one of the aux buses.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted. Oh, okay.
I wanted to show that in the list there's a mute and solo button if you want to solo like maybe just one reflection. You need to solo the reflect aux bus and then solo a reflection, and then you'll be able to hear only that reflection if you wanted to. Some tweaking going on.
Cool.
So yeah, you have all the power. It's like, I mean, you have all the power, but at the same time, it's a big responsibility because you have too much power sometimes. But, yeah.
Spatial audio superhero.
So for example, if you change the distance attenuation, just put it up, we're gonna hear it more.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to try. So let's distance attenuation. A bit up here.
Yeah, because we soloed that one only, then you can move.
Definitely here in the left ear. Actually.
Because that one must be.
We're reflecting on some like.
Go into the F12.
Concrete. Yeah. Okay.
It touches concrete and then it bends on an edge. So if you go.
Diffraction.
And also the name of that, the name is library room graphics, so I guess it touches the library room.
I guess we could if you just go to this one and then find it.
Yeah, we could find it.
We can probably look here and see. Oh, okay. It's a strange one. So it comes from the left side, right? So we're looking towards the campfire right now. So it must be this one that bends down through the portal and then up again. So that's probably because the mesh is going down below the portal itself and it bends on there. But yeah, we also have
I'm
one
not
that.
sure. I'm not sure. We'll need to like move around and zoom maybe.
Yeah. When I look at it like this, I'm just thinking that it comes from the left side here, and so we can take a look at the others as well.
So, question coming in from the chat to get a little more clarity between the difference between distance attenuation and a distance attenuation emitter to listener. And let me give it a try here. Like the distance attenuation is the global attenuation for the reflection, and the emitter to listener is an offset that's based on the distance between the emitter and listener. So it's kind of I think of it as an offset. Does that sound right?
It's an attenuation. It's an attenuation of the volume depending on the distance between the listener and the emitter. And the other one is an attenuation of volume between the listener and the image source. So the image source was like the image of the emitter mirrored around the surface reflection. And so that distance is bigger. No, it's not bigger, but I mean it could be bigger or it could be different.
Yeah.
And for me, how I see it is, you go close to the emitter. Maybe you want to duck the reflections a little bit, and then you go far, and then you want to hear them more. If you don't understand it, like by default, we just put it to high max, so it doesn't do anything. But if you want to do something special,
Yeah.
you can change. In my head, it makes more sense to do it the inverse, to remove
okay.
them when you're close to the emitter. Yeah, like this.
And then a funky thing here, so like.
No, because the thing is with this curve, you cannot check out these gray lines, because those are the distance from the image source, and then there's a distance from the listener and the emitter, which is different. So you can't check out these lines. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So a little bit tricky, this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to touch a bit on the different lines here, I think I tried to solo some of these, so I could see like when I solo this one, maybe you can hear it comes down from below, like a right side. If I solo this one, comes from the left side here. And the last one we've got here, cube. I think it's the reflection you can see on this bookshelf over here, because it's a cube.
Yeah,
and
this one
it goes from the front, so it's less panned, but almost also inaudible. So this way you can easily like see all the reflections you have and narrow it down. Yeah.
Well, and
what else?
And honestly,
wait, I just remembered that you can see the image sources in the Game Object 3D viewer, so that could help you like visualize. So if you go back to the Game Object 3D viewer, we don't need the editor anymore. No, you're there. Just zoom out and just add the reflection, like where you add the reflection paths, you can add the image sources, reflection image sources.
Like this, yeah.
So if you zoom out a little bit, zoom out.
Oh.
And then if you toggle and untoggle, we're going to see them. I can see one on.
Let's see if.
Yeah. So it's
at least the icons.
Little, speaker sounds there. So these are the image sources I was talking about. So this one, for example, is the image of the emitter with the wall of the library.
Should I add the name as well, or
there's no name. There's no name.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no name for those, but and then there's another one for the cube. Like if you position yourself as like seen from the top, yes. So you can see the left one, yes, this one, is an image between the emitter and the wall. And the other one is an image between the emitter and
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
other
So
surfaces.
this one that is below, it must be below somehow. There actually, it's right there. So there we
Yeah, this
got
one below. So
the
this one
first
you have to
one.
put it like this to see because
Yeah.
the reflection is up and down. You have to
Yeah.
check it out from the side.
Yeah. But I just wanted to notice that like you have the first reflection in the right here, and the second one is there, and the last one here,
Yeah.
which is yeah. I can try to go closer if I now can find it. Or else, yeah, there it is. So down here, the
Yeah, you
virtual
have to
emitter.
check it from the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this, because this one's hitting the ground of the library. So it's a
Yeah.
reflection. It's an image of the emitter and the floor.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can really dive deep with these controls, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so question coming in from the Unreal side. Okay, if we use an AK spatial audio volume for reflections, what happens when they turn off specific surface reflectors of the volume? Won't
That
reflect off them?
Yeah, it won't reflect off them. Yeah, exactly. So you would see like a hole in your. You can check the game objectivity viewer and see all the surfaces, and one will just have no surface there. So the sound will not reflect from it. And if you don't have any rooms, you'll just hear the direct sound when you're outside. Yeah, but that's Unreal. There's lots of things in Unreal to say.
So let us know. Is this something you want us to dig into maybe in a future episode of Wise Up On Air Hands On and go deeper into the Unreal side of things? We are here to bring the future of spatial audio to you. So just let us know if that's something that you're interested in. Any last
Yeah.
questions coming in? Otherwise, I'm feeling like that was a deep, deep dive into early reflections. And for those of you who tuned in a little late, you jumped in, circle back, grab the first few minutes where Thalie does a great job presenting the overview of dry path early reflections and late reflections. This will help frame what you've been viewing, and we'll give you maybe more context if you came in part way. So please feel free to jump back in and get that sweet dose of science right off the bat. That was fantastic. And it really has been a pleasure to bring this series of spatial audio to you. Again, across episode 1 covering rooms and portals, episode 2 covering geometric reflections, and now here episode 3 talking about Wwise Reflect Premium Plug-In. We have time for a couple more questions. Any closing?
Yeah, there's questions.
Yeah.
So we got somebody asking about spot reflectors. So that's something we added in Unreal at the very, very, very beginning of. I'm not even sure spatial audio existed at that time. So it's not something we want to cover anymore because it's like the old way of working, and it's not really the best way. But we left it there for people who want like to do advanced things that we don't think about maybe, but spot reflectors. So spot reflectors, what they do is they call directly the Reflect API without passing by. Do they pass by spatial? They do, but like they set image sources directly. So like you say, I want an image source there at that position. But it's kind of difficult to like make it sound good instead of like having a geometry where everything's calculated for you. So it's a little bit weird. So I don't know. That's maybe I will never talk about sponge vectors again.
That was it. That was it.
We have problems with icky environments in rooms. So Mass, maybe you know more, but in
You can use
here,
you can use both, like use AK environments some places and use AK rooms other places, and it works well actually because, like, for example, in this game we have AK rooms in the entire dungeon, but we don't have AK rooms in the rest of the world. The rest of the world outside is just AK environments, just to showcase that you can use both of things and also combine them. But then again, you won't
both,
get the same advantages of using AK rooms.
yeah,
Okay.
both have like reflect. Sorry, both have a reverb. It can
Yeah.
reverb anything that is inside, but the room is more like a closed area. So if you're outside of the room, you don't hear anything from inside of the room, except if you put a portal. So that's the difference.
Yeah, maybe I can also show, like, just take the Unity project here and go to the core. A good example for when I was including spatial audio in WAG is that here, for example, in the old Wwise Adventure Game, we have this region down the left side, which was like one place of an AK environment, and we have the rest of the core as another AK environment. But the thing is that you could then use this trigger down here to say, like, exclude all. So when you're down here, you have that reverb, but when you're upstairs, you have another reverb. But that doesn't really function the same way with AK rooms. You can't really put an AK room in that sense inside of AK room, so you have to do that differently. But then again, you also, like, with AK rooms and maybe some reflections and diffractions and so on, you get some different like way of using your objects in your scene and your adaptiveness of running past some stones and such. You get a completely different new type of detail in your soundscape than just having, like, the acoustics combined that way. So you really want to think about, do I just need, like, a reverb in this area that kind of give a sense of room size, or do I actually want it to have the dynamic adaptance to what is actually in the room? Yeah.
And then somebody asked if it's going to be posted later. Yes, all of our live streams get saved, and they're like a highlight on Twitch. You can watch them, and they're also sent to our YouTube channel, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I'm getting difficulties when getting out of a room into an ambient outside. Whoa, that's really a vague question. Don't know if we can. When a bus gets into the room.
I guess if we have any more details on that question, get her in there. I'm going to tie it up with a bow here and say, the Wwise Adventure Game, the Wwise Audio Lab, all of the spatial audio tools that we've shown across the episodes, they're all available to download today. You can go grab them. The integration of spatial audio in the Wwise Adventure Game is something that we're working on towards a release in the future. Mads is showing us through the launcher where those samples can be downloaded. You can have your hands on this right now. You can be tuning Reflect by ear, hearing what these properties do, and again, bringing in this ability to get more information from the game side, influencing sound and bringing some reality. So I didn't see a whole lot of examples of when early reflections really mattered in people's daily lives. And I don't know if y'all have a few now, but stepping into a stairwell, it's a fascinating experience, right? And like the reflections there at every step, get it, really inform your location as you're walking up and down. Take a moment next time and really, get into that moment. But hearing the early reflections as you navigate a staircase is an invaluable tool as a human that we use to understand that space. I would say something like a cave, but it's been a long time since I've done any kind of spelunking, so it's not a good example for me. But people,
If you're in a city and there's a construction, you'll hear it from the buildings and not really in the direction of the construction. You'll hear it from the buildings like near you too. That's fun.
yeah,
Since I designed the Reflect plugin, like I just see reflections everywhere. I hear them now, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
reflections.
Yeah. So, as someone points out in the chat, entering and exiting small rooms, right? You hear that difference. You understand your proximity to the walls as they change in their size. Blind people using echolocation as part of their daily life, right? Clicking the stick, hearing that resonate, using those audio cues, those reflections, in order to orient themselves in the world. This is like an everyday experience for them, and so early reflections are really a piece of the puzzle when it comes to how we understand the world. And we think that these tools in Wwise give you that ability to creatively control how that is communicated in your experience, whether you want to edge towards reality or whether you want to go for some unreal representation. But ultimately, what we've tried to present over the series here are these tools that really empower you to create the sound of your experience in a way that makes sense to you and in a way that sounds right to you. There's a lot of controls in there. There's a lot of potential. It's in your hands. So with that, I just want to say thanks to our guests. Thanks, Mads and Thalie.
A pleasure. Thanks for inviting us.
It's
Thank you.
fantastic to have your experience and skill on display here as part of the Wwise Up on air Hands On. Any parting thoughts?
I guess that if there's any questions, further questions on this, just make sure to post it on our Audio Connect Q&A, and we'll try to keep one eye on the Q&A to just answer in there as well. Or post a comment in the YouTube video, and we'll try to answer there as well. And yeah, that's about it, I guess.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody that came. 30 people, yay.
Thanks for coming today. Okay, stay good.